This mother sold her baby's old bed. She was going through a difficult time emotionally. Financially, things were very, very bad. So she sold the crib, and she thought that would solve everything. But 3 days later, the shopper suddenly made an impressive discovery about the bed in question 3 days after Karen sold her daughter's crib. She assumed the sale was complete and the buyer was happy with her purchase. But suddenly she received a message from the crib buyer, and the content of the message was very strange. So weird that Karen almost fell out of her chair after reading the news. Eyes wide, she read the buyer's message. When she read the content, she could hardly believe it. For Karen, it was an effort to put enough food on the table for herself and her little girl. She didn't live, she just survived. She had been bitten by a tick and contracted Lyme disease. Because of this, she couldn't work, no matter how much she wanted to. And as if this were not enough, the father of her little girl left the house as soon as he found out that Karen was pregnant. Karen was trying to make ends meet thanks to a small subsidy and the things she sold on the internet. So she put up for sale everything she wasn't using, including her daughter's crib. She had a hard time getting rid of her crib. The cradle had been passed down from mother to daughter from generation to generation and was a true family heirloom. But when someone offered $200 for the crib, Karen couldn't resist the temptation. Perhaps we might think that that amount was not too much, but it was actually a lot of money for her. She finally could buy new shoes for her daughter and pay for her school trip. But when the shopper came to pick up her crib, Karen felt as if a part of her was leaving with her. She couldn't deny the link between all her memories and that simple cradle. She had always been very connected to her crib and to all those moments when her daughter was in it, giving her incredible memories. And with good reason, because this crib was very special. But once the buyer arrived to pick up the crib, Karen felt a little better about the sale. Something about this shopper had awakened Karen a feeling of peace and tranquility. The buyer was also a young single mother like her, and very soon she would have another child, since she was already several months pregnant, and her situation was beginning to turn into something special. The young woman herself was not very well financially, as she had had some problems, but she liked this crib so much that she had to buy it for the girl that was growing in her belly. A special girl deserves a special crib, she said at the time they were beginning to meet. Karen agreed with that thought. She sold the crib with a feeling of confidence. But this feeling did not last long because 3 days later, after that quiet moment, she suddenly appeared a message in her inbox that would change her world completely. Karen was combing her daughter's long hair, as she did on a regular basis a few times a week, when suddenly her cell phone rang without stopping. Beep! She had a notification. Karen lowered the brush for a moment to see the message that had reached her. At the moment it was a message like many others she received, so nothing seemed out of the ordinary. But when she saw that the message was from the crib buyer, she asked her daughter to wait a moment while she read the message. It seemed that this was not just any message. Maybe something was wrong with the purchase, she thought. It was normal. Buying second-hand things is not always as expected. She unlocked her cell phone, opened the message, and started reading. As she read the message, her face took on an increasingly surprised look. She couldn't believe that she was getting this message from the bed. Could this really be true? The woman who bought the crib wanted to paint the crib a different color. She said that she had sanded the old paint, but suddenly she saw something special, someone's signature. She thought it was the crib maker's signature. Shocked by the discovery, and unable to find an answer alone, she posted a photo of the crib on an antique forum to see if people could give her any information about the firm. But even before she shut down her computer, she received a ton of responses. "That crib is very old," said one of the answers. "I don't know if it costs a lot or no money. You could find out," wrote another person. The buyer's message went further. The next day she took the crib to an auction house to be told how much it cost. She was truly intrigued by this discovery. And indeed, it turned out that this ancient crib was at least 200 years old. A real find for this single mom. She couldn't believe that a crib could last so many years. She could only think of a single question. But exactly how much it cost, the appraiser couldn't estimate either. "It's a beautiful specimen, but I can't put a price on it," she told him. "It's just a matter of what people are willing to pay for it," she answered him. And it was true. The value of things is sometimes determined by the person making the purchase and how much they are willing to spend. The buyer decided to put the crib up for auction. It was a beautiful crib for her daughter, but of course she could use some extra money. However, what she did not imagine was that this crib would change her life drastically. The crib was the last item to be auctioned that day at the event. In fact, some people had already left the venue. But there seemed to be a lot of interest and the offers were getting higher and higher. So, the bidding started that day, $500, $1,000, $5,000, $10,000, and they continued, and that was not yet the end. The crib shopper listened to the offers, and she couldn't believe it. How is it that a crib she had bought second-hand could be worth so much money? What was that so special that it drove all those buyers crazy? It was just unbelievable. $350,000, $500,000, at 1, at 2, sold. The buyer could not believe all this. In truth, this was truly implausible, even for people used to bidding. She had become absurdly rich in the blink of an eye, and all for a bed. But she owed this great fortune to someone else, so she decided to do something very special for Karen. Karen couldn't believe what had happened either. She read the message at least 6 times before realizing what this meant. The crib buyer was so grateful that she wanted to share the money with her. So she would soon receive $500,000 on her account. This got Karen out of a lot of financial trouble, and not only would she be able to send her daughter on a school trip, but she too would have enough money to pay for her future studies. When Karen realized what was happening, she couldn't hold back the tears. Crying with happiness, she hugged her daughter, who was looking at her, confused. "Everything is going to be fine, darling," she whispered to her daughter. And really, yes. Because now, 6 years later, her daughter is in college and she is not depriving herself of anything. Karen has also come a long way. She bought a new washing machine and decided to study on her own. She put the rest of the money in a savings account for her daughter. In this way, she would always have money to eat in case she had problems in the future, or for her studies. And that was not all, because the crib also created a beautiful bond between the 2 single mothers who shared this story. After the message from the buyer, the 2 moms agreed to see each other. Through their shared motherhood experiences, something seemed to click so well between them that they finally became best friends almost instantly in that moment. In truth, no one would have ever imagined what a particular crib could bring with it 2 amazing moms who got out of financial trouble and a lifelong friendship. Karen, a struggling single mother, sold her family heirloom crib for $200 to another single mom. Days later, the buyer discovered the crib was over 200 years old and auctioned it for $500,000. Grateful, she shared half the money with Karen, transforming her life. Karen used the funds to secure her daughter's education and save for their future. The 2 mothers, bonded by this extraordinary turn of events, became lifelong best friends. The story of the crib not only brought financial relief, but also a remarkable friendship, showing how life can change unexpectedly in the most heartwarming ways.